store, eat at the, get groceries from this store, not like the nice, organic store. You're going to have to eat this shit over here, or eat insects or whatever the hell.
The Oreo store.
Yeah.
Lucky Charms.
We're not far from that if we don't, stand for civil liberties. And people always when I talk about, because I've always been a big proponent of Ed Snowden, and people are like, well, I have nothing to hide. And I'm like, that is the fucking worst answer. Because I don't have anything to hide either. But I want my privacy. And you don't understand. You think the government's just going to stop at what the...
It's not about having anything to hide or not. It's the fact that it's not about having anything to hide. It's the fact about kind of like who you are and what you can do or what you're capable of doing and what you're planning to do or where you're planning to go or where you could potentially go, right? So all of your routes where you could go are all known, and any travel resource you could use is known. So, you can only either take, the bike or the train, right? And then, if the train's delayed or, pull a lever like in India, 250 people die, gets derailed, or if, power goes on it, you got a bike and you can't get anywhere quick on a bike. And, it also, where you're going to go on a holiday, how many airports can you get to in the local area within a certain amount of time? And also, where would you even want to go? Anywhere everyone's going now is only where they've seen on the internet. So you wouldn't even think of going anywhere unless you'd seen it, right? All this Costa del Sol and Bora Bora, Alvida's Pet, it's the places that they pull up in the search results. Obviously the dark web is not even indexed by Google, and then what other sites and suggestions come up. So to cut it, I could go, you could talk about this for hours, but to cut a long story short, every possible decision you could make effectively would be narrowed down to a dice roll. So, you're 50-50 or 6-1 that you're going to do this or that. And I think they even want to go further than that. So that literally, it's almost like your entire schedule is pretty much planned out for, I would say, all your life, On Tuesday you're doing this, on Wednesday, it's all planned out, your schedule, right? So nothing is unknown. I think that's where they want to go with it. And if one person then is out of their predicted schedule, well, you won't be able to go out of it. You won't be able to. You won't be able to, unless you're ill or sick, And if you're capable of changing that or doing something about it, they want to know who is legally capable, who is legally trained, who's got the legal knowledge, who's got the access to the information, and then who even understands it to do anything. We're doing, what I'm on with now is the legal challenges against all the things they've been doing wrong and illegally. And this amounts to huge, massive, entire sections of the police that have actually funded the police, like the fine system, the point system being done illegally. In London, the US fines are putting cameras. One of the candidates was going to refund all the fines anyway. Turns out that by law, they're all illegal anyway, if the law on it's right. But you got to be able to find out about it, get the information and understand it. Actually, let me just play Aaron a bit more.
Doing now? They're not going to stop with this. They're inching closer to being 1984, where they have a set in some sort of TV set in your house.
They've already got that. They've already got that, Aaron, because they've already got the digital eye on the TV. They did that years ago. I think they did that in the year 2000 or even 2005. They started having those digital eyes on the TV, saying it was just for light control, but you can actually see into the room. So they've been using that. The 77th Brigade and military have had access to that anyway for probably at least since 2000. So they've already got that, at least, you know, them to us, just that we can't see them. But I don't think that we're ever going to be able to see them, because now, Aaron, the way they're playing it now, right, is that firstly, all the companies and businesses you know are being bought out, and all these companies and businesses are massive and huge, you know, and I don't want to get racist, because like Americans are the most least racial people of all, because they've got like a very, very large mix of different races. But there's no way I can put it to you without it kind of being a little bit kind of like controversial. So I'm not saying it lightly, and I'm not like saying it with any hate or dislike. But, right, you have to speak the truth, right? And I've noticed now that, you know, on a lot of when you do get to speak to someone on the telephone, or you know, people aren't really that clued in. They aren't really that switched on, or that not really that intelligent, and they're all groomed, trained, subordinate. Effectively, like what you were saying about that China social point system, you might as well say that all of the Western world, big companies like Amazon, eBay, you know, YouTube, Facebook, all of those big corporate companies have got their staff trained and groomed under regimes which might as well be that China social point system, Aaron, right? And that's where you can't get, there's no bargaining, there's no agreements, there's no, you know, and the policies are getting more ridiculous and ridiculous. In fact, they're illegal. Many of the policies actually are criminal, illegal. And and what you do to use any of these services now, it's not just the laws of the country or the laws of the state. They've got their own laws, like Murphy's Law. You know, and you don't be subjected to these laws through birth or through where you live or by how old you are. You actually, these laws are contractual. You will submit, consent, accept, obey, comply. You know, they're all basically you, in order to use any of these devices, machines, services, companies, which are now all under the same ownership networks, and literally they're the ones who make everything that we're given now. You have to consent, submit, and obey to their policies, which many of them are infringing on rights, like, you know, the Public Meetings Act and all of the constitutional law in both countries, well, in our country and in America. So, they don't want you to see who the staff are. They don't want you to know where the headquarters is, where they're speaking from. They don't want you to have any information on them. And Tony Blair sold it that it would be freedom of information. Ask the government anything, find out where they buy the widgets from, who supplies them. And what happened is really, the real objective was to have our information. The freedom of private interest to have information about us. And the whole thing they taught you when you were growing up is don't talk to strangers, you know, don't take sweets from strangers. While meanwhile, you've got, you know, Prince Philip and Charles and the Queen and 77th Brigade and Battalion probably listening to this now, I hope, you know, spying on people. And the police, like on Big Brother Watch, have just said, you know, there's police were spying on political groups and not taking any action in many instances. The thing with the police is we pay for them, they got funded, they got a bit of authority, and they're just bullies. And some of them might be doing a good job. Some of them might be helping people, you know, if they need help or assistance or they're injured or whatever, or if there's an accident or incident. But that cannot justify and be an excuse for the sweaty shirt muscle, the psycho, the Erwin R. Schneider wrestler, the police bully, who are not, you know, they deny rights when you even use them in legal cases. So, and those are the things that were actually protected from the police. We were going to do the policing. We've actually, all the laws that society have that we could actually use ourselves have been taken from us. And I actually think that that's a way for the police and authorities to keep track and stop any independent political groups actually getting into government, and why we have this two-party system, you know? And then even when there's a three-party system, half of them have taken these weird oaths where they aren't allowed to understand, conceive or comprehend anything bad or wrong being done by the core of the royals, you know? And the problem with that is that they're actually requiring to have a blind spot. Basically, it's almost kind of like, you know, in the Christian religion, you've got this forgiveness thing, right? They want to be forgiven, but even more than forgiven, they don't even want people to recognise that anything can even be done wrong or is bad. But what they want to do is make more and more and more things that we can do bad and we can do wrong, right? More and more, even not even agreeing with them, or even naming something, misnaming something or whatever. They're coming up with more and more and more and more laws of the most insanely ridiculous and fickle things, but they can't even be recognised when they've done wrong. And this is the thing with their staff training. When they've got this groomed staff regime order, like you said in China, and then put through all the corporate companies as well globally, you know, Mark Zuckerberg answers to nobody in his business, you know. If someone has a query or question to him, he doesn't even have to freaking reply to them, right? He's supreme master. And this is the same with Gates and Musk, really, you know. And the thing with that is, the ideology is that, you know, your workers, I pay you, and if you don't want a job, you're sacked. And then even the customers, the users, consent, submit, accept, agree. I mean, when you've got a guy who cobbles shoes and you ask him to make you a pair of shoes, right? You know, if he can even still do it and not only machines, you know, if a person can actually still make a pair of shoes, okay, you know, if you disrespect him or something, or call him a twat, he probably won't make you a pair of shoes. But, you know, if you pay money and ask him to make them, but ask them to make them how you want them, you know, it's a person, you can talk to him. But when it becomes a machine factory and you don't even speak to humans, you don't even know where it's coming from, even to speak to them, to even access to talk to them on the website, you've got to agree, consent to all these things. You're not asking someone to make you something anymore. Someone is actually making something for you and making it how they want you to have it, not how you want it, right? And then you've got the whole thing of, you know, people probably wouldn't have bought or changed a lot of things if they hadn't been coaxed into it or misled into it. And they're actually now dictating a lot of things what people should have and are going to have. And there's a lot of other people who are being victimised because they just are happy with how things are, and someone else wants it to be assimilated, upgraded, when they quite were happy as it was, and it wasn't harming anyone. You know, it comes down to style and taste. But, you know, style and taste is one thing, and then the other part of it is, you know, why do we need electronic cars which have got cameras in them and tracking and this and that? You know, who's even in control of the car? So that, you know, it's about control again.
That watches you.
So, yeah, I mean, we're not watching them. At least in the Orwell thing, you can see them on the screen. On some of them, or unless it's just the, you know, the voice only or whatever, you might even be lucky if you get a voice. You know, so things just happen. You know, if you're disobedient, you know, what's the punishment? You know, that you know, the house across the street vanishes. You know, or something else reappears. You know, or you know, your plants in your garden suddenly, you know, die. Or, you know, whatever, your friend goes missing. It's almost getting like some kind of mafia.
Make sure you get up and do your 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups. We're going to watch every aspect of your life. We're going to give you a social credit score. We're going to create... I mean, it's a fucking great book to read. It was written in 1949. And how accurate it is today. Literally, the Ministry of Truth. We literally had a government organization that was censoring free speech and categorizing things as misinformation. There was a Ministry of Truth czar who was making decisions based on what they thought was acceptable language online, and all these fact-checking bullshit. Like, we're not far from 1949. from that book, 1984, which was written in 1949, if we don't take a stand for our civil liberties. And that's why I think that there needs to be more disclosure. I hope there is. I hope there's more corruption. I hope Bobby gets a chance to debate, because I think he'd do a hell of a job. I hope Nicole gets a chance to debate against Kamala Harris, because I think that'd be a big win for her.
Another final thing that I kind of wanted to add, probably tag Tucker in this, and I'll probably tag RFK Jr. I don't even know if Aaron's got a channel or not, but I've been watching this for a little while, and I don't get to watch every single program of Tucker's now, but I do like them. But what I was going to say is that I definitely starting to think that it's really like have you seen the Running Man program? Well, it's not a program, it's a movie. The Running Man movie. The Running Man movie. I actually think it's like the Running Man movie now. And the way I'm seeing it now is that, I mean, I did watch TV when I was growing up. I did go to the movies. But I've never really been that keen on this kind of whole, like the game shows. There's the studio programs, the studio game shows, the guest game shows, and all this X Factor, and then all the reality TV stuff. I've never been into that. I'd watch, certain programs and the cartoons and movies and things like that. But, people like Graham Norton, all this show business and stars and having a laugh, when things aren't going right in life and when things are going wrong, it's almost kind of like they're laughing at everyone else, yet they've got these worshippers. There's something really wrong about it. There's something really odd about it. And I actually think that they can. You see, the BBC have kind of more or less admitted that, they effectively know everything that's on your phone if they want to at the moment, and, everything about your medical information, everything else. And we know that, a lot of the media, have got information on people if they want it. And so now they can knock that information around unofficially and then have digs at people and jokes and, plus you've got all these algorithms and adverts popping up. They can program it in to actually show up on your phone within a certain village or town or area and keywords and that. So it's actually, you see, what the police are doing, anyone who, who if you upset or, harass anyone or, even behave odd in a bus station, people can report it now. But then the Advertising Standards Agency and other, they won't accept that a company can do it to an individual, like Coca-Cola could target Aaron Rodgers, or whoever, with the intent for harassment. Unless you're a celebrity or someone like that, a normal person can't go into a police station and say, McDonald's, stole my tune and they're using it to intimidate us, because they'll just laugh at you. But they are doing. And when it's blotted out Vanguard, it unfortunately, they don't need armies now. They're using the media and tech. They're using the corporate arm, their corporate arm. And the problem with the media is that it's a cult, that they're getting people to laugh, cheer along, turn up in the audiences and so forth. And the thing with Aaron and Tucker, both being celebrities, I guess, it's that it's impossible to do anything. I mean, I'm having to talk now. This is the old Russell Brand dilemma. It's like you can't do anything about what's happening unless you have a voice or, make a stand. So, I'm not suggesting that, celebrities should be banned, but there is a kind of, I think Aaron and Tucker must concur that there is, if you think of the Running Man program, those characters they've got, the way they do it, it's like a game show, and they've got that, that Valkyrie guy in the car, driving around in the car, that with the electric, with the electric shock thing. They're just these characters. It's like Eurovision or something. And what it does is it's predatory, and it makes entertainment out of bad or not good things that are happening. And in the case of the Arnold Schwarzenegger character, well, he was, being, he was accused of crimes or offences that apparently he hadn't done. And they were basically making entertainment out of getting him. Now, the thing with the TV shows is to people who are quite shallow, it's presented as good, honest, just, it's entertainment. We're here to entertain you, And I think that's where you just mentioned Kamala Harris. Unfortunately, people like Kamala Harris are victims, because they are victims of the very, very, very kind of, the facade of it all, when actually it's not good. It's presented that, everyone's going to be treated equal and everyone can be free and so forth, but it's actually not, because you've got these kind of really dark, nasty and sinister things going on, which comes through their actual health and the food that they're feeding us. All the products they're giving you for your skin and teeth, Corsod, Ill, and all these little laughing characters that are all having a giggle, Disney characters and so forth, when you're actually dying and losing your edge, basically, and they just laugh along with it. And to a lot of people, they're in on it. They're like, and they, some of them kind of know that it's not that good, but it's because everyone else is doing it, so they're laughing along with it. They either turn up in the audience, clap along, laugh along, turn up on the X Factor, queue up, basically show must go on. But the show is actually quite sinister, because people's health is getting pummeled and so forth, and so that's why I don't like it. And I do think that it is nasty and sinister. And you've got, some of the celebrities are dropping out, like Chris Packham, Neil Oliver, and they're in this kind of like, state where, what can you do? Because you have to be, you have to speak in order to, do something, well, I suppose you can, like the Anonymous don't speak, they do it all covertly, they do something. Well, they've got, they are the, it's like, at least they have to, they've got a channel, they've got websites, they make contacts, so it's not, they're not like you don't know, it's not like you don't know that they exist, or else, they wouldn't even have the word anonymous to go on, so even they actually have to be acknowledged, or there has to be an awareness that that in existence, but I've had it with all these, Amazon Smirk, all these, products. I mean, even I'm struggling with it now. Even when you're trying to get out of it. I mean, I did get out of it. I got healthy. I did exercise, but I fell back into it again because they attacked us in other ways. All the places that I were going to keep healthy or like going to, then instead of, and that's through knowing information about you. And this is the Tony Blair, this is the big Tony Blair evil, which is you need the data, you need the data, mechanisms of implementation. If Tony Blair didn't have the data of all the places you liked, then he couldn't take them out. He couldn't write them off. He couldn't seek and destroy. And then he couldn't defeat his enemy. If he doesn't have the data on you, then, he can't ruin all your things, right? Ruin your memory, ruin your history, ruin who you are. So, in a way, Tony Blair's model of, all these mechanisms of implementation and this, having this data is, basically it comes down to getting a handle on you, getting the head around you, getting, and that's basically going back to shackles. Chains and handcuffs are a very primitive form of enslavement. Now they've got very technological, and even invisible ways of slavery, which they're trying to get in. But obviously, if you can spot them, then you're gonna, try and do something about it, try and stop them. And I think that's what it comes down to with the personal capacity. With the health, if you're not healthy enough to stop them, or if you haven't got the capacity to stop them, or if you haven't got the capacity to see them and spot them, then you aren't going to be able to act. And I think that's not only why they just want to have control of the travel, control of the transport, control of the money and finances, but also all of your, as George Galloway said the other day, biometrics, and and if they can't get you on their side, on their team, consent to accept, on their Starship Enterprise, mustard or red uniform in their, cheerleader team or whatever, then you're the enemy, You're the enemy if you don't submit, consent, accept. And this is not just like an oath for the nation or country. This is, corporate now, corporate policy. There's no voting when it comes to corporate policy unless you're a shareholder. So I really don't know what the fuck the military think they're doing at the moment. Firstly, they're handicapped. They've got a handicap, Sir Carter, fuck knows what, Mr. Beret, Mr. Camo Beret, I say the army, you're handicapped, by oath, you're handicapped, and, then it's going to be microchip, not just an oath, and then, crack open the clone army, obviously the genetically modified clone obedience army. So they're just saddos. They actually are sad. World domination. They sold it in the James Bond films, that, same old dream, world domination. I know it's, we're just, the referees of the world, making sure that everyone's behaving. But that's not true. Because, while they're projecting that, Secret Service, we'll have to get the bad guys, they're actually buying up everything, taking over everywhere, and getting everyone to submit, consent, accept to global law and rules, which is the army's meant to be there to protect the country from foreign threats. It's not meant to be there to assimilate the people so they're handicapped and can't politically stand against what's happening. The whole point of democracy is meant to be everyone gets to vote on it. So, and this is the thing, those movies like Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Running Man, it's kind of joke because, what can one person really do that? And even if the government was bad, and doing something wrong, which they are, because, the entire police have built themselves up on crime. Police chief shall not hold common pleas, but you get a notice of intended prosecution through for a crime, not a parking ticket, a crime, and when the confession goes to accept the point, sent to the police ticket office, which is under the control of the police chief, and then you get a letter back. We get points on my license. At what point did you enter a plea to a court? Well, you have entered a plea because you can't actually be liable to anything without a confession, right? Or agreement, consent, submit, accept. So that's all dealt with by the police ticket office. And at no point do you... you're fined. You're fined and given a punishment when you never entered a plea to a court, right? So the police chief's effectively holding common pleas. And only guilty ones. He's not accepting not guilty ones. And then you have to go to a court. You're going to a court and entering a plea when you say that you didn't do it and you just ignore the, NIP, right? That's when you know that you're definitely, pleading not guilty. But otherwise, you can't take the fine. You can't take the fine. It's impossible to take the fine. Or points without confessing. So that's illegal. They've built low, and then when they erase all the data, that they've taken a lot more fines than they reckon they're taking. Then they've been going after political groups and political campaigns illegally. Then there's the whole drugs part of it, which could have been done legally through chemists and pharmaceuticals and so forth, but they wanted to do it dark and sinister, undercover on the streets, no one trusting each other, all that thing, and then police could have a right good old little game out of that. 95% of the undercover operations, they could play around with people's todgers, and put their hand in the trousers, a bit of Jimmy Savile action going on there. The whole basis behind it. Meanwhile, the crime's gone through the roof. So the police have been a complete and total failure. They might have turned up at some incidents and accidents and put their arm around somebody, nursed them better. They might have, put a few fires out or whatever. But is the police a success? No. They're making a hell of a lot of money for government. They're going for small fish that they can just catch in nets that are all illegal because illegal road signage are everywhere. And they're not actually getting any of the proper crime, and it's gone through the roof. So the police are a failure. It started in the 1830s, right? We've given it a try. Has it eradicated crime? No, because they're even actually inventing more crimes now, which aren't even a crime. Just, your own style or character or way of speaking, or slang or whatever, mainly because of a lot of foreign influx where they don't share our traditions and morals, which are set in law. Actually, our traditions and customs of our people, our race, are actually set in law of the Magna Carta. And what you've got is Sunak, Patel, and that, Mr. Shiraz or whatever he's called, SNP guy who apparently stepped down now as well. They're coming in and they're going, oh no, we've got a different culture. Well, but this is our law, and customs, The thing is, if you go to another country and go into, a mosque or a temple, you respect their customs. You take your shoes off or whatever. If you go to India, south of India, you can't have sex on the beach and all these other laws. You respect their laws, right? We don't all go over to India and, have a sex party on the beach, But I think what Sunak wants to do is have it's not even, you could say have an insult party on the beach, where you go insulting people, but quite the opposite. Have a censorship fest. What Sunak and Shiraz are doing effectively, and Patel, is having like a censorship party. You can, go to a house and, someone has a house party, you misbehave, it's a wild party. It's like the opposite of a wild party. It's kind of like an unwild party. So what effectively Sunak and Patel and Shiraz are doing are effectively having the opposite of a wild party. They're having an unwild party, like the really unwild show. When, it's our customs and traditions set in the Magna Carta. Otherwise, in fact, I think that law in Scotland is illegal. A lot of them are. The tolls in London are illegal against the Liberty of London. A lot of it is illegal. I mean, if you had lawyers, you could arrest them all and prosecute them through the courts if you can find a legitimate court. So, as far as I'm concerned, and I will be uploading this for the attention of the armed forces, they've got a serious problem because, like, when the law says that, they're breaking the law, then they lose their right to anything because they're fucked. So, and then what have they got left? Weapons. So they're going to illegally use weapons against the citizens of England and spy on them while they're breaking the law. So they're effectively, terrorists. So they are terrorists, And then, the king was, trying to break the law as well of the, Act of Settlement, which actually says that we're not allowed to be infiltrated and taken over by foreign powers, take away our rights and customs. So there's serious problems actually with the military, you know, but obviously they're the ones with the guns, you know, and with the devices now. So, you know, what can you do when you're being subjected to we might as well be going back to, 1066, you know. You might as well, you know. And if it wasn't for, in fact, if it wasn't for the Norwegian forces attacking the northeast, then that King Harold wouldn't have been up there and just marched back with his army, and he probably wouldn't have lost, the Battle of Hastings, because it was meant to be one of the biggest armies in Europe. So whether or not it was all a charade and theatrics and they were handing it over, or whether or not there was like some, because that King Knut, had been a king of Norway, Denmark, and Britain at one point. So, you know, there's a lot more connectivity going on there than what people think. So therefore, you know, what had, William the Conqueror sent a message up to them to say, right, we'll take England out, you know, you go, you know, on whatever the 5th moon of the fucking 6th, and then, you know, we'll come in after, and, if you lose, we'll finish them off, and if you don't, then they'll be finished off anyway. So, it seems to me like that there was some kind of dirty game played, or it was all theatrics, you know, some kind of handover, or we can go back to, Caesar, or whatever, riding over with an elephant between his legs, whatever you want. But again, that was because of they had to take it with it was a technology. They wouldn't have done it without those shields and without those military tactics. So that's what it's down to now. It's down to technology and military tactics, right? Is Stonehenge, does it belong to Red Beret Pumpernickel with his fucking sand camo on, with fucking, Prince Harry's touchy-feely helicopter controls while our mobile phones are all going sketchy? No, because he's cheating with technology. You know, these people are cheats. They're not like, it's not like sword fighting and fencing. They don't fight fairly. It's like a dirty Frenchman trick, isn't it? You know, send a fucking Norwegian army in up in the northeast and then finish off what's fucking left. It's just dirty, kick you in the balls. You know, it's like, shine my fucking shoes. These people are dirty tricks. They don't play fair. They play dirty tricks. They're not sportsmen. They don't uphold your law and rights. They fleece the whole country, lay dirty tricks by dirty road signage everywhere, which is not even fucking lawful, when, it's written in law. So they're just bullies. It's actually a bully cult, and who wants to be ruled by bullies at the end of the day? And then they've got an oath that they can't understand anything that is, done wrong or bad. So, we know what the microchip's going to fucking be programmed to do, the way that's going, which basically means they've got a self-handicap. It basically means that the bad guy doesn't know that he's bad, and none of the bad guy's gang can recognise that he's bad. So, touche, I say touche, and if you say may the best man win, then, fair dues to him, master and commander at the far side of the fucking world, the guy who'll kick you in the fucking testicles, so, fuck him.